Shame requires us to exclude people. If you've followed me at all, you know that I've spoken a lot about that. That when we exclude somebody for whatever reason, it helps us feel good about ourselves. It gives us an adrenaline rush, especially if we can find a group of people who agree with us that such and such a person should be excluded based on whatever criteria we've come up with. And we can exclude individuals, or we can exclude entire groups of people based on whatever criteria we set. And then, therefore, we become part of an exclusive organization. And that right there tells you about the power of the charge that we get, the rush we get when we exclude somebody. Because today, being part of an exclusive organization is not a negative. It's actually a positive. It gives us a sense of pride to be part of an exclusive organization, as a part of an organization that excludes some people for some reasons. Usually because they are not as good as us for whatever reason. And this force, this need to exclude people has been with us our whole lives. It certainly starts as children on the playground in elementary school, where we quickly learn how to exclude people for our peers for, again, whatever reasons that they don't meet our criteria. And we quickly also learn that it's very important, even as children, to be part of the exclusive group and not the excluded group, because of what that says about us, about our internal being, which is really what shame is trying to protect or foster. And then this idea of excluding people, it goes throughout our entire lives. We get sort of addicted to the adrenaline rush of being exclusive, or we get addicted and desire to do whatever we can to prevent being excluded at all costs, including maybe hiding some very important and very real parts of our lives. Shame helps us do that. Even in the Bible, we see, even in the church, we see that the Bible has been used to, for example, justify slavery. It's been used to help us exclude an entire race of humanity back in our history. Certainly not today, hopefully. But more recently, you also see where Bible verses have been used to exclude women from various roles or certain participation in the church. And perhaps alongside of that, you see even verses related to divorce being used to exclude people from the church. So, in essence, what you end up with in the church is somewhat of an exclusive organization. And then all of a sudden it doesn't feel so good. It doesn't feel so good anymore. The word being exclusive. Now, it's interesting because I've come across this now that I've been doing this study in Matthew over on my YouTube channel. I've been going through Matthew sort of verse by verse. And I did one showing in the genealogy of Jesus where there were actually individuals that would normally have been excluded from a genealogy. You would not have thought that they would add to the purity of Jesus' lineage, of his line. But yet there they are. Included, not excluded. Almost as if Matthew wants to add some shock value to say something important about who Jesus is as a person. That such people, who we would normally exclude, had been included. And then you see it almost right away again when Matthew tells the story of what we call it the three wise men, the three kings. Now, certainly kings and wise men are not people we would exclude. They'd be people we probably want to include in our exclusive group because they help aid the prestige of our organization. Matthew, though, calls these wise men, these kings, he calls them Magi. Magi. which by itself doesn't really send any shock into us in our modern time. In fact, maybe it sounds kind of romantic or medieval. But in Matthew's day, the idea that Magi were the first to come to follow, to seek out and find the Messiah would have been shocking. Because these are people that the church had been trying to exclude. And here Matthew again is trying to say how included they were in this story. Those we were trying to exclude. Magi, we get our word magician from it. There's some indication maybe they were magicians, sorcerers, maybe gypsies, that kind of person. That kind of person, see what I did? But for sure, minimally, they were astrologers. We know that because they're following the star. The star that has somehow communicated to them where to find the Messiah. So they're listening to stars about how to find God, the one they want to worship. Now in the Bible, that idea of astrology is somewhat condemned. It's condemned as idolatry. So here you have these idolaters who are following their idol to find the Messiah. And their idol is actually helping them. This is shocking if you're living in Matthew's day. But even today in the church, we sort of frown on the idea of astrology. It certainly isn't the New Testament frowned upon, but we frown upon it. Yet this very thing we frown upon, we welcome into our homes towards the end of December every year as we place that star on top of our tree. In fact, that star, that symbol of idolatry, finds its way into our churches, into our congregations. Now, if you're part of an exclusive group, you sort of hope that after these astrologers, after they find the Messiah, eventually Jesus, the Messiah, says, now look, guys, you got to give up the astrology thing, okay? It worked for a time, but now that you found me, you don't need it anymore, so let's just dispense of it all. We don't need that. That Jesus maybe tried to correct it. There's no evidence of that. In fact, the evidence is the contrary. That we have adopted it into our culture, into our story, even while we exclude those who practice it. And every year we put that star on our tree and put it in our church, and we never blink an eye as to what it could possibly mean. Something that Matthew intended to be shocking. Now, exactly what Matthew's trying to communicate, it's hard to say. I mean, we just don't know. But part of me wonders if what Matthew's trying to say is, you need to be very, very careful who you exclude in life. We need to be very, very careful about the way shame insists we exclude people, because those very people who we have diminished and excluded from our exclusive context may be the very people who are on their way to the Messiah. And we've dismissed them entirely because they are excluded for whatever reason we've decided they should be excluded. Maybe Matthew's trying to wake us up to the way that the damage that shame can create when we do exclude people for whatever reason. Maybe Matthew's just trying to wake us up to the damage, the potential damage that can happen when we determine people are worthy of exclusion, when in fact they are the ones on the way to find the life that we very much seek. Maybe Matthew's just saying, folks, you better be careful, because shame will rule this if you don't get on top of it.